you were still feeling lonely?
Well, yeah, that's a story in itself. You know, I had a lot of personal struggles. My life had to unravel in many ways. Yeah.
And
that's a long, let's put it this way, it's been a long journey. Right. Kind of like what I call my writings, to hell and back. Like I've been through an emotional hell, you know, and a time of torment, and, you know, by the grace of God, it's like I'm on my way back to wholeness and health, so to speak. Yeah.
Because you mentioned in your writing about Satan, these evil forces.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about Satan, what are you actually referring to?
Well, you know, many people may not really understand that, but there was a time I was so confused and so troubled that I was seeking meaning and purpose. I was seeking something, I don't know, as my life began to spin out of control. I mean, I got involved in like Satanism, and I was reading the Satanic Bible, and it was such a dark and troubled time. I'm just even ashamed to talk about it. And I think, you know, years later, I look back in hindsight, and I say to myself, you know, I don't even understand how I got involved in this. I don't even understand what the lure of the attraction was. I don't even know what I was looking for. But, you know, at the time, it's just like one thing after another. Once you go down the wrong path, you know, you just end up anywhere. So, you know, here I am. 30 years later, we meet in a prison.
So how does it feel to be here for 30 years, knowing that this is going to be it?
You know, it's like, you know, the expression, take one day at a time, and it's never easy, you know, being incarcerated. I have no one to blame but myself, but I realize too, because of the seriousness of my offenses, that I'll probably never be released. But yet, you know, through my faith in Christ, I live with hope. I live with, you know, encouragement. There's so much to do. Dan, today I see myself almost like a missionary, you know, here. Like, in other words, missionaries go to, like, you know, foreign lands and share their faith with other people. I'm kind of like a missionary right here behind these prison walls. So I thank God for each day, and I'm managing.
Now, if you were able to get out, would you be a missionary? Would you go to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
No, I would definitely not be a psychologist or psychiatrist. No, but I would be just a man who, with love and passion in his heart, would do everything I possibly can to reach young people. If things were different, and let's say I were getting out tomorrow and can start a whole new life with my friends on the outside who were involved in churches and so forth, youth ministries, I would go to like different schools, youth detention centers, wherever, to talk with young people. You know, try to just give them some words of encouragement, words of advice to just keep them on a good track, you know.
Now, you have a very large following, because it was interesting, because I was reading you're looking at the website, and I mean, you were interviewed by Larry King. You were interviewed. You have communications with a number of Christian organizations.
Really very small. It's not a large following. I have maybe 15 or 20, you know, good solid friends, and some who live in this area I could see on a regular basis, and others that are far away we only correspond by mail. But I'd say I have about 15 or 20 close friends, and that's about it, you know. But other people can view the site and, you know, get whatever they can from that, you know.
When I wrote to you a couple of months ago, and you mentioned that there were missionaries that came who were visiting here, or they were going out to Europe.
A friend from Russia, actually. Yeah, he's with an organization called Russian Christian Radio, and actually he's from the United States, but he and his wife and family, they are living in Moscow right now, where they run the ministry from there. So it's interesting how, you know, people from all walks of life. I'm not Russian descent, but I have friends in Africa, you know, people I write to, Russia, different places, and, you know, they're all devout Christians, and we have a lot in common.
Your writing, because I mean, you happen to be a very good writer.
Oh, okay, well, thank you.
I told you that once before. I've told you that on several occasions.
Okay, well, thank you.
And so, how did your book, Son of Hope, how did that come about?
Well, actually, certain friends over time encouraged me to keep a spiritual journal. And I wasn't too keen on that one way or the other. I said, well, that's an idea. Well, they said they liked the way I write my letters and so forth, and they thought it would be a good idea if I were to write, you know, my day-to-day experiences as a Christian living behind prison walls, if I would just like kind of keep a journal. So I did begin to do that. It started off slowly because I didn't have like the self-discipline to write every day. So every so often I'd write something about an experience or something. And over time, as I began to share those writings, different friends came along and suggested, hey, you know, you should consider putting this into a book. I said, I really had no interest one way or the other. I said, well, whatever, you know. And another friend did find someone who who read my journal writings and thought, you know, that would be an ideal thing. So to make a long story short, we eventually came together and agreed on that he would try to put a book together with a selection of my journal entries that I, you know, write, and we also agreed that, you know, I received nothing from that the portion of the proceeds that would normally go to me as the author, you know, would go to the Crime Victims Board in behalf of my victims. And but as far as writing, no, I love writing. That's my main avenue of expression, and I'm always writing messages for the church, letters to other people, as well as the journal, which, you know, you see in the book there.
Now, as far as the money that you don't receive, did that start with your
yeah, the so-called
incarceration?
Right. The so-called.
Well, how did that come about?
Well, I mean, as far as I know, after I was arrested, there was a concern. Like, first of all, when I was a basket case, I had no interest in any of this kind of stuff, but making movies, books, things like that. But there was concern that, oh, well, you know, it was public outcry. A person that's notorious could decide once they get in prison to write a book, write a movie, make money. So they passed that law to prevent someone from doing that. Which is fair. I don't have a problem with that, but I've never written anything really successful. You know, I've never made a movie, and the journal book has only a small circulation. I mean, you know, it's not like anything big. So
I forgot where we left off because we had a little technical difficulty.
Oh, about the book and the law and things like that. Or if I one day write an autobiography or something, it's something to consider.
Did we just during our little break, you mentioned about my brother.
Yes.
You know, I think I did mention to you that I did lose him at 9/11.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, you know, that was a traumatic incident when the planes crashed into the World Trade Center and things like that. I was, that day, I still recall it vividly, I was in my cell. I had the morning off for one reason or another, and I was listening to the radio, the CBS AM station out of New York City, which comes in loud and clear, and I heard a report of a plane hitting a building, and the first thought it was maybe a small plane, one of those sightseeing planes. Somehow the pilot lost his way and hit the building. But you know the story now, things quickly escalated, and of course a major tragedy unfolded. But I remember when this began to happen, the officers in the cell block, you know, got wind of this, and they turned on the TVs, and all of the inmates, including myself, we were in front of our cells, you know, looking down at the TVs in the day room, and it just seemed so unreal. I remember praying fervently about what was happening, and you know, asking God for help in the situation, help those people that are in those buildings, and I also had a visit that day, so when I went down to the visiting room, they have a TV in the visiting room that they used on the weekends to show for kids to watch cartoons to keep them occupied, but they had turned on the CNN news, so my visit and we watched almost that whole thing unfold live on television. And even the inmates here, you know, the atmosphere changed for quite a while. Men had gotten more contemplative, and a number of guys were gathering in the church to pray for the victims and things like that. I didn't know that you had lost a brother in the World Trade Center.
Yeah, he was in the second building in the South Tower.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It was a horrible experience, but...
But I did happen to go to the library here, and ironically they had a book that was published by the New York Times about the portraits of all of the people who passed away, and I saw your brother's picture and the small biography they had about him. Wow, that's...
Right, you didn't know him.
No, I didn't know him.
He didn't hang out with us down at the...
Yeah, I didn't know him, and I guess he was a little older, right?
Yes, yeah, he went to Baruch. He went to Clinton, and then he went to Baruch. Where'd you go?
I graduated from Columbus High School.
Okay.
Christopher Columbus.
That's right.
Yeah, Astor Avenue in the Bronx. Yeah.
That's right. So I know that quite well. Actually, my wife graduated from there.
And I was very fortunate because originally they were going to send me to Evander Childs, which the school was a little rougher, but I managed to luck out and get to Columbus. And back then, that part of the Bronx was still pretty decent. In fact, just a couple of years ago, I was reading an article in the paper, I think it was in the New York Times, about the schools in New York City, and Christopher Columbus had a very high rate of violence and problems. It was considered a problematic school, and I'm shaking my head in like disbelief. I'm saying, what? I mean, this shows you how dramatically things have changed in neighborhoods that we knew from the past, you know.
That's right. And you know, it's interesting in your book, Son of Hope, you talk about you've been here 30 years and you feel like you're still living in the 70s.
Yeah.